Good afternoon everybody and welcome to another wee video. Here in the garage today we have a convertible BMW 1 Series, a 120i, as you can see there. I've just covered the plate there. It's a personal plate in this wee car. So the guy that owns this car, he says he hasn't owned it for very long, and the problem that he has is he's driving down the motorway and the traction control light's coming on and the engine's cutting power. So it's very intermittent. It's only happens very occasionally. I took it out for a bit of a test drive, drove it around the block, and it did not occur for me. So it's probably a situation where it could depend on weather, damp, whatever. There may be other variables, but it's not doing it with me at the minute. When I was driving very, very slowly, just in first or second gear, it did actually flash it up a wee bit, but I did not see reduced engine power. But it doesn't really matter. I know what he's saying, and it's fair enough. So I'll just show you the wee light that comes on. If this is happening to your BMW, this is very, very common. There's loads of videos on YouTube covering this, by the way, but hopefully I'll be able to do something that's a wee quick, cheap fix, and how you can get around this. So I'll just show you. This is the wee light comes on. See that wee circle light there? That one there comes on, and it cuts the engine power, and it just flashes on and off because it thinks the wheel is slipping, as if you're driving on ice or you've hit a damp patch or something like that. So it cuts the power of the engine for whenever it sees that, and it's a bit of an annoyance for people. So there's a way that you can just turn the traction control off. You just hit that button for a second and it comes up DTC, and that's the TC is traction control. That's the traction control now turned off, so it won't do that. It won't cut the engine power, but obviously you won't have any traction control. So yeah, just a wee thing I'll tell you, that as soon as you take the key out of ignition and lock the doors and stuff, and go back and turn the engine back on again, start your engine, it will default back to the traction control being on again. So whenever that light is up, that's traction control off. That's it, cut. So it won't see the slip because the traction control isn't on, basically. So it defaults back to being on whenever you start the car again. So anyhow, let's see, we scanned the car, done a full system scan with the auto. So the first thing we did, see if it would give us any direction as to what's going on, and that's the history of it there. That's it there, 07 i20 and 43 engine, and we'll get the codes up here. So ABS. What is that? 5DC1. Ignore that AO for a minute. Rear wheel speed sensor, plausibility. This not present. So it's only happening, it's only occurring when you drive every now and again, intermittent fault. So there's no real point, I don't think, of me doing any real tests on this, because I'll probably not see anything, and I'm not going to waste my time for something that I don't think I'll be able to see anything at all, hardly. So there's a host of other fault codes in this. This is a full system scan I did. There's all NOx sensor related codes there. Fuel pump plausibility code. There's a direction indicator, rear right, not present, so they must have had a bulb out at some stage. But anyway, there's that convertible top module. Fault in the code and data, not present. So I don't even know why that roof works or not, so I'm not interested in that. We're here for this boy here. So that's what we're going to chase. Right, so here we are with the back end up. Just stuck her up in axle stands, just for handiness. It's quicker doing that than putting it on the ramp. So getting her lined up and getting her up in the jacking points. BMWs don't fit in my ramp very well, but I can get them on it, but it takes me a wee while to do it. So we're really interested in the back wheel. So this is 5mm on key into the head there. Just guys, give that a wee tap in, give it a couple of taps, and make sure it's seated, otherwise you'll wring that Allen out. Okay, so we'll see how we go. Okay, listen, they're off there, and it's just coming out. So it wasn't tight at all. These here, when you're putting them back in again and stuff, they very, like nearly hand tight and just a wee tiny wee nip up. These things here will strip out, that head will strip out, cause you an awful lot of grief for the sake of a wee dopey bolt that can add on to the job time for you, and a bit of heartache. So sometimes extra couple of seconds, taking a wee bit of care, spray a bit of panther juice around it, get her nice and lubed up. Even you could scrape the inside of that wee element out with a pick. So these generally come out not too bad because of the design of them. I'll just show you. Some ABS sensors are a pig to get out, and some you can't get them out without actually breaking them. So this one here, if you get a pretty small screwdriver and get it in here, just in between the sensor and the back of the hub, just there, a small, thin, fairly thin screwdriver, flat screwdriver, and just gentle taps, and you'll be able to get her in there, and a wee bit more of a squirt of stuff, of WD or something like that, and you'll be able to tease it out very gently. Any baiting at all, do not hammer it in at this point, because you'll just go through the sensor then and completely rack it. So I'll just put the camera down, and we'll get this thing out. Okay, that's the wee boy priced out. And the reason why these come out not too bad is because they had a bit of sense, and it's only held in with these wee ribs on the sensor. Other sensors that are round and don't have these wee ribs on it will be jammed in there, and you basically you more or less have to drill them out and destroy them. But these style here, they have it doesn't just corrode up completely, and you can tease them out on that ear there. So that's what I said about, you only have just at the bush there, the metal bush just to the left of it, and you can tease it out, and just take your time. So anyway, without further ado, we will have a wee look at the face of this. We'll see if we can focus on it there for you. If it's going to focus, and we can see a wee witness mark there in the middle of it. So there's probably water getting into that, guys. That wee mark there in the middle should not be there. That should be nice and flush, and you can see it's sort of got rounded, and it's actually, yeah, you can see it's sort of at an angle as well. So that's where the reluctor ring that's in there has been rubbing on this sensor. And what happens is, you can just about see it through the hole there. You can't really see it. Let me see if we can get a light on it here. There she is, there. I can just about see a wee bit of it. Okay, so if we rotate the disc, we can see it's dull. It's like a matte colour and dull, the ring. And if we go around, we can see where it's shiny. And there's another dull bit. There's a shiny bit. We're a wee bit in shadow there, I know. Is that any better? I'll just poke it through that wee aperture there, between the torch and the drum. So it's pretty matte and it's pretty shiny. Hopefully that's coming out, guys, on the camera for you. So we'll take it back a wee bit. There's sort of shiny bits there. That's matte and that's shiny. So that's where the rust is building up below that ring. That ring, if we go right round with it, it's all in one piece. So we'll be able to. That ring it's just bulged on the rust below it. So see, that's shiny there. That's sort of shiny there. And that's right, so that's where it's been hitting the ABS sensor. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the exact same thing with the other side. I'm going to pull the other one out and see what that looks like. Okay. Here we are on the left side of the car. This one was a wee bit more difficult to get out, but again, a wee bit of patience, just tease it out on the ear there with that small screwdriver, and it took 10 minutes and it got out. But it's just, don't force, don't pry and pull at it with a big massive screwdriver, and tease it out. Plenty of lube juice, WD-40 or whatever equivalent. So here we can see there are indeed witness marks in this one as well. This side we are not getting the fault code stored in the ABS module, but one thing that I did notice, it actually isn't too bad this, but one thing I did notice was the reluctor ring. Using the torch there, the reluctor ring, you're probably not going to be able to see this, but the reluctor ring on this looks as if it's been replaced at some stage. Just get that wee sensor there, don't want to look at that cut there. So yeah, the reluctor ring looks, if it's been replaced, I can actually see it in the back there, between the drive shaft, at the end of the drive shaft. It's actually sitting over to the right a wee bit, more so than the other one. But so you can see the left side of the reluctor ring there. So a new one, it looks as if somebody's fitted a new one on this car, a new reluctor ring. But I'm still not totally content with this side, that the problem will occur at some stage, because it is touching that. Now it says BMW on the sensor. It could be the original sensor, and those are the marks from the original reluctor ring. And the other wee telltale sign is whenever you spin the wheel, whenever you spin the disc here, you can sort of feel or hear the sensor rubbing on the reluctor ring, so you can actually hear it. So this one was a wee bit freer to move than the other one. So I'm not quite sure whether this is actually touching or not, but nevertheless, I can still see witness marks in that ABS sensor. But we're not going to fault code that. So what I'm going to do to proceed is I'm going to order a new ABS sensor for the right hand side, and then I'll be showing you what I do with these whenever I put them in again, and just to stop this from hitting. Okay, we're still on the left side here now, and if I can get the torch in a decent angle there, what I did there was, I can see our fairly new looking reluctor ring. It actually looks as if that's a new joint on there as well. It's been fitted, so it's hard to tell. The nut looks a bit fresher on this side as well. So we're trying to second guess what's went on here. So what I've done with that hole is we've got that round file there, and we've reamed out that hole a wee bit so that the sensor just pushes in and out nice and freely by hand. And what I've done is I've put a bit of white paint on the end of it, as you can see, just with one of these wee marker pens. So bit of white paint on the end of it there. So this is a wee test just to see if this is rubbing on the reluctor ring. So we'll get that wee on back in there again. So get that in, and give it a slightest wee nip. So this will be the way it's gonna end up in the car. The slightest wee nip there. We'll just keep it in for a minute. I've topped it in too well there. So that's it in, and we're gonna give her a spin. Give her a wee spin with our hand. And I don't hear any untoward noises. It's just the normal brake pad on the disc noise there. So there's no resistance that I can feel. Everything seems pretty free. And I'm going to just back that out a second. back at. So this sensor I'll just pull out the hand now because I've reamed it out with a file. Just took 5 minutes, so it just slips out lovely. And no scrapes. So okay, we're pretty happy with that one. We're going to just leave that the way it is then. And with that new looking joint there, or replaced joint anyway. So we're getting no fault codes on that side. There's that reluctor ring there. It's all shiny because it's not rusty at all. So just our shiny dull business can't use it on this side because that's clearly been replaced. It's a lot newer looking than the right hand side. So right, okay. Here's a guy here who knows all about this job. This guy here, Cars Exposed. Check out his channel, Jaguar. He's done this job on the BMW. He's a couple of videos, and he actually changes the reluctor ring on the drive shaft because I think it's his own car he's working on, and he took the time to do that. But we're not gonna, as you can see, we're not going to do this in this video, and just having a few wee sweeties here when I'm shooting this wee bit. So, what are they? Super Mix? Well, check out his channel, Cars Exposed. That one there. And that's an RV sticker from him. Jaguar, thanks for the stickers, mate. Right, here we are, back at the sensor. We have got a new sensor just out of the motor factors. They keep them on the shelf, and that's how common a problem this is. In my local motor factors, this is a Delphi sensor. It's about 30 quid for a brand new sensor, so not really that dear. You get the wire and the plug on the end of it. So I'll show you that in a wee second. But anyway, this is a new sensor in. I'll show you what I have done to stop this sensor from rubbing on our bulged up reluctor ring. Now I've done this on a number of BMs, and they're still running about with no problems. Now, you might class this as a temporary fix, but it's a cheap fix. And as long as you tell the owner, as long as you inform the owner, they're usually pretty responsive to telling them, look, this is a cheap fix, this gets you away, it'll last for long enough, and there you go. Your alternative is pull that drive shaft out, change the reluctor ring, or if there's an awful lot of rust, you might actually need a new drive shaft. So I know a guy got quoted £600 from a garage, and I assumed they were going to change the drive shaft, or that might have been to do the reluctor ring. I don't know, but nevertheless, I did it for a fraction of that by this wee trick. And here it is, guys. Hopefully that'll come up in the camera. This wee washer, and you just back the sensor out. Now, what I did, I'm not just sort of guessing here. I need to make sure that this thing isn't going to rub. So what I did was I did similar to what I did to the right hand side. I put white paint on the end of that sensor. I've reamed out that hole so that this sensor can move freely inside it, and that's very important. So what I did then was I put the sensor in with no washer and pushed it in sort of as far as it would go. Then I gingerly and very gently rotated the disc, and it pushed the sensor back. So it did, and left a wee witness mark on the end. You see how easy that comes in out there now? So it left a wee witness mark on it, and I knew she was touching. So from the amount of space that it moved out, it pushed itself out, then I could sort of judge how much distance that I needed to keep this sensor off the ring. So we simply put the washer on the back side there, and Put a little bolt, put a little Allen headed bolt in there, slide her in, and give her a tighten down. And as I say, I've done this a number of times on these BMs. I've done it on Jag. Incidentally, I showed you at the start of the video a Jag S type sensor. Suffers the exact same problems on the S types. Bulged reluctor ring, and you just back it out with a 1p washer. 1 penny fixes this problem. And if it's your own car, by all means, I know my mate Jaguar, he took the shaft out, put the reluctor ring on, but time is money, guys. Time is money. And for me to take all these bolts out, disconnect all that, some of these items that might be seized in, and taking the shaft out, can't do it. Like it's you know, not beyond the realms of possibility. But the problem is, whenever you go to take all the rust, take that reluctor ring off, take all the rust off, there's a chance, a good chance, that your new reluctor ring will not be tight on the end of that drive shaft. What I have done in the past is I've built it up with adhesive tape underneath the reluctor ring and actually soldered it on to keep it in place, and it has worked. It's no big deal, but it's a lot of work. And if you can get away with this, if this gets us away for cheap, my customer will be over the moon. So I put it to him that if you want a permanent fix, it's a few £100 to do this. Well, I'll say a few, it depends, but if it needed a new shaft, you're into that £600 ballpark mark. There's other guys on YouTube and they've just changed the shaft because they get it out there and they have to stand over it. And you can understand that. That's fair enough. But as long as the customer can understand, as long as the owner of the car understands that this is a cheap fix, it's a brand new sensor, we've checked the other side, and this one here is backed out, so it will not damage that sensor. So I've got my white paint on, and I've already tested this, guys. We're going to spin her up, and I don't hear any wee squeaking. It seems to be pretty free. There's nothing, no resistance there. You do that quite gingerly at the start, and it actually backs it out itself. And there's a wee, a couple of mil gap now between there and that and the main body of the back of the rear of the hub here. So our next step is to put this. I'll just bring you out here and show you. I'll get that torch out of the way. So there's our new sensor in place. There's where the connection lives. A couple of wee clips. You need to make sure they're clipped in. And those clips are good. They usually are no problem. They usually clip on, no problem at all. And you run it back through that wee bracket there, that wee plastic bracket, and clip it all back into place again, so that it doesn't catch in that coil spring and it doesn't catch in the moving suspension components. So I'll just bring it down here. As I say, that sensor, it's aftermarket, but I think Delphi's a pretty reputable manufacturer there. I'm quite happy enough to use these. I have used aftermarket sensors on these BMs and without issue. So there's other cars now, guys, like Mercs and stuff. I would recommend you buy the Bosch sensor for those type of cars. But these BMs and Minis, which is the same thing, these sensors are all the same for this era of car anyway. They may have changed them in the newer ones, but for this era of car, these sensors are grand. You don't need to get a BMW one, but you can if you want, of course. And that's the original one, and it says BMW on it. So that is the original sensor, and we can see our witness marks there. And there's quite a lump removed from the end of that. So yeah, there's no wee white paint marker that I was using. So as you can see, once you fit it, it's yours. So there we go, guys. Okay, just a wee extra bit here. I noticed that whenever we took the wheel studs out, not on this one here, but on the other side, there was copper grease on these threads. You shouldn't really do that, because that will actually stretch the threads if you grease that. That there should be dry. Anyway, the wheel in this car, when I took it off, was quite stiff. It needed a couple of thumps to break it free. There's some cars you actually need a pry bar to pry the wheel off. It's not badly stuck. So the issue is, and to prevent that, and I'm in the habit of doing that whenever I give any car back to anybody, is you give this a good wire brushing in around that area there. And I've already done it. This was all like white fur corrosion, and that's the reaction between the aluminium and the steel. It's aluminium oxide is what you're seeing there. So you give that a bit of a rub. It takes a minute to do that. A wee wire brush. If it's really, really bad, you need to put a wire brush on the air drill. But yeah, so all you need then is dip your finger in there and just give it a run around. You don't need to plaster it all over the place. I've actually put maybe a bit too much on there, but just a wee run around with a finger, and one wee dab of copper grease on there, and that acts as an anti-seize, and that means whenever you go to take the wheel off again, if you get a puncture at the side of the road or whatever, that wheel will come off no problem at all. And obviously whenever we get this thing back in the ground, we'll put the wheel nuts on. Most cars, the wheel nuts, these wheel nuts, you're looking at in around 100 newton meters, 110 newton meters. It's in around that. Some like 19 inch or 20 inch, maybe 120 newton meters, but not much more than that. You don't have to swing on it. And the other one is, we all know these lock nut type jobs, don't, whatever you do, use an impact in these things. These BMW ones aren't too bad. I've never seen these ringing, but if these are over tightened, that again is steel, and that conical area there, that bites into the alloy, and that's what jams the wheel nut. If you have copper grease in these threads, then that will allow that to go in and be over tightened. So that's a bad thing to do. As I say, that is what you want to do, and that will make the wheel come off a lot easier. It takes 2 seconds to do it. I'm just got into the habit of doing it with every car. Okay, wheels back on again, and took her out for a wee test drive there. What we did, we cleared all the codes first of all before we went out for a test drive, and tried to do different speeds, accelerated, and went slow, went a wee bit fast, and nothing came about on the dash. So no traction control light, which it wasn't really doing for me much anyway. I got it to go once on my initial test drive, but we've got the hotel plugged in, ignition's on, cycled the key a couple of times just to make sure, and I haven't done this yet now, so this is going to be the acid test. We're going to see if there's anything stored in the modules. So good wee thing about the hotel there is it gives you the history of all your cars there, so you can see stacks of cars that I've been doing there. So anyway, all these three are this BMW. So the one that's still in it is the one that didn't delete was this fault in the coding data, even though it says not present, but it would not delete. But as I said earlier on, I'm not interested in that at all. So we're going to load her up. We're going to hit yes for that, and this is going to take a wee second or two to do here, guys. So we'll just pause it there. Right, so that took about 30 seconds there. So just to save the boring you to death, I just paused it. So we're back again. And there we are. There's my wee sweeties. Let's get them. Get a few in into me. And we have one fault in the engine, no faults in the ABS. The engine faults did all clear from the previous screen, so that's probably that sulfation of the catalytic converter, which I see all the time in BMWs, and the owners aren't even aware of it, so they don't even chase it. If it doesn't flag a DCC, well, we'll just see what it is. Read codes. There we go. Catalytic converter sulfurized. If you're interested in what that is the cats on these here, they have a knock sensor on them, and it works a wee bit like a DPF, where it has to regen, and you need to take it for a good drive. Now, on the hotel here, there is a facility to run a forced regeneration, but you have to drive about 50 miles to do that. So, as I say, punters don't even know about it. I've seen loads of BMWs with that code stored in them, but as long as it doesn't flag an engine management light. So the ABS is what we're interested in here today, guys. So after that, we test drive around the block, no faults. So we're going to call that a fix. We're going to text the customer, tell him his car's ready to pick up, and he's going to get charged a wee bit of time, a wee bit for the diagnosis, and obviously the price of that ABS sensor. So damn sight cheaper than putting a new drive shaft in, or taking that hub off and cleaning up that CV joint and stuff. There's that one for this convertible top module. As I say, not interested in them. There's 18 modules it's found, the hotel here. Have this tool a couple of years. Don't regret it at all. Although I haven't really used that J25V4 programmer. This thing is now out of subscription. It's still usable, and every time I turn it on, it reminds me there's a whole stack of updates. But it's a fortune of money to pay for the subscription, so I'm just going to use away at it for the time being anyway. I might pay for it sometime, but this thing's up to date till 2018, so August or September 2018. So I'll have this about a year and a half, and no regrets for this purchase. It does, it has its own wee quirks, but no scan tool does everything. But anyway, guys, I'm going to eat the rest of these sweeties. I'm going to eat the rest of these sweeties, and yeah, that's it for this one. Listen, thanks for watching as ever, and I hope this helps somebody. I hope anybody with these problems in these wee BMWs, very, very common, and all the best.